Hi everyone, today we're going to be doing our long bone dissection. It's not a true dissection as these specimens have already been cut and prepared for you. However, I do want to remind you to handle everything carefully and please remember to leave each specimen as you found it for the next class. So here what we have are 3 cross-cut sections of a long bone. We've already looked at the entire bone, which included both epiphysis at the ends and the diaphysis, which is the shaft where the yellow marrow is found. What we're looking at are 3 cross-cut sections of the diaphysis. What I would like for you to find is, of course, everything that is on your paper if it's visible with your partner. Before we get started, I do want everybody to wear at least one glove. We're going to put it on our non-dominant hand so that you can hold your pencil and check things off as you find them with your dominant hand. So we really only need one glove today since you'll only be lifting and looking at both sides of your specimen. The first thing I would like for you guys to find is the marrow cavity, the yellow marrow within it, the compact bone, and many of you will be able to find the spongy bone and the red marrow. There are a couple other things I'm going to point out that are possible to see as well, but aren't on your list. So first off, we're going to start with these 2 smaller sections right here. I'd like you to note that one of them is a little bit taller than the other. They're a different shape. However, they both have this white ring, let me put my little thing, okay, of compact bone that you can see on the outside. What's visible in this one, right in the center, is this opening. That's a blood vessel that runs right along that marrow cavity that we've cut through. Okay, so here's the outline of our marrow cavity, surrounded by compact bone. There's no holes or openings in it. That would only be in the spongy bone, and that would be full of red marrow. But in this case, our marrow cavity of the diaphysis is full of yellow marrow, and here's a blood vessel. If I flip it to the other side, I can't see that blood vessel, perhaps because of the way that the marrow is covering it, but we can still see your compact bone surrounding your marrow cavity and then the yellow marrow within it. Here's the next one. Here's our compact bone surrounding the marrow cavity and the yellow marrow within it. Okay. On the outside of this piece, we can see that there was a muscle attached. So this would be the end of a tendon that, of course, attached the muscle so that when this animal contracted the skeletal muscle, it was able to move the limb in a very specific direction. Now, this last one is a little bit different because it does have a thicker end. Any piece of bone that you see that has a little bit thicker end means it's closer to your epiphysis, where that red marrow and spongy bone is located. So on one side, we see the compact bone, your marrow cavity, and then the yellow marrow. But when I flip to the other side, that marrow cavity is much, much smaller because now we're getting closer to the joint of the skeletal system. It's surrounded now by spongy bone. And you may not be able to see this very well, but if we look closely, there are little holes. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Okay, which indicate that this is spongy bone because it's not nice and smooth like this compact bone surrounding it. But what we have is spongy bone full of red marrow, and that's of course where we have our blood cell production. There are also some blood vessels on the inside there, and that's of course how those blood cells leave our skeletal system and go right into our circulatory system. Something else I'd like to point out is on this section, on the covering of the bone, we have something called the periosteum. It's this very thin layer on the outside that's starting to pull back a little bit because of where the cut was made when this animal was processed. The periosteum is interesting because it's just this real thin layer of tissue that contains a protein called collagen. It's responsible for growth, repair, and protection of the bone, and it also contains nerve endings. Nerve endings, of course, would be sending signals to the brain of contact or pain, pressure, things like that. So if you've ever experienced something like a shin splint, that's because this tissue, the periosteum, is where your muscles and tendons attach to the bone. So when you have stress on that muscle attached to the front of your tibia, where your shin is, it's the nerve endings in this tissue that's sending that pain message to your brain. So some of you may be able to see this, may not, but take a peek, see if you can find it. On these other samples, I can see that the periosteum is pulling back just a little bit here. And then of course on this one, it's visible on this end, okay? And it covers the whole outside of every bone and has many functions. All right, when it's time to clean up, what I'd like you to do is leave your bone segments right on the dissection tray, cover them with paper towel, take your glove off, okay, flip it inside out when you take it off, put it right into the trash, and then of course wash your hands and come have a seat.